Hey everybody, this is Lauren Delisa Coleman for another edition of the Inside series right here at Filmio. And I am so excited. We have a ton more interviews to bring you during the South by South Film Festival. Got a little bit tongue-tied there because I'm just so excited. This next filmmaker that I'm bringing to you is actually taking out a few moments in a quiet space as she has boots on the ground at South by, so we can hear all about her impressions there, her film, and more. I want you to please welcome Winter Dunn, who is the director, just filmmaker extraordinaire, all behind a film called Dear Mama, which is at South by Southwest, the film festival, I guess kind of vertical of the conference. And we are so lucky to have her. Winter, thank you so much for joining us with your fab hat and everything.
Oh my God, thank you for having me. I'm here in Austin, and something about Austin said hats. So I'm rocking hats every day. It's a whole vibe.
Go. We love it. And that always helps you to stand out more, but you don't really need any help with this. You guys, I want to just kind of set this up because I usually like talk a little bit about the filmmaker's accolades into it, but I'm just so impressed with Winter because of just her age and how she's looking at different things. And just what she's done already. I already told her, like, offline, like, don't forget us when she's blowing up, you know, getting her, like, SAG awards and so much more. But I don't really know almost where to begin. So first of all, you are represented by Issa Rae's Color Collective, which I'd love for you to tell those who are maybe watching a little bit more about that. This film is part of something that I'm a fan of, which is Warner Media 150, that division, which I'm hoping you can also speak a little bit to as well. But, you know, we've got to, like, give the major shout out about being the 2021, and I want to read this to make sure I get it right, recipient of Amazon Studios Fellowship Grant, which I don't know if you can tell us, you know, what you're doing with that, but I'm just so excited. And then, like, it just keeps going on, you guys. So, you know, she's part of, Jezebel, which you've also won an award for prior to this film, Dear Mama, which I promise you we will get to. Is being distributed through Ava DuVernay's Array Pictures, you know, distribution deal through Netflix. So, I mean, you are just really doing it up, and you have this film now here at South by. So let's just start first with the synopsis and how you kind of came to the story, and then how you're just blowing up, like, moment by moment.
Oh my goodness, thank you. This is like the best call I've had all week. This is already so fun. I'm so happy to be here. Absolutely. So yeah, I am here with my short film that I directed titled Dear Mama. It is a really beautiful, if I can say that, a really beautiful, intimate story about a daughter and a father navigating the grief of a family member in 1996 when the news of Tupac's death breaks. And so it's this conversation of when we lose our icons and when our icons can feel like the people closest to us, how does that make us look at the loss of that we've lost the family around us? How does that change the conversation that we're now having as a family as we try to pick back up and move on with our lives without our loved ones? And there was something really special about the piece because I think in the pandemic, coming through the pandemic, so many of us were in these spaces of isolation where we were feeling things. We've lost so many people in this pandemic, and we didn't know how to connect and figure out how to get past that, how to properly grieve. And when I got this premise from our writer, Charmaine Cleveland, this film is being produced in Film Independence Project Involved. So we're a part of a fellowship. So this premise came and it was a ton of development of like, what's our anchor in this story? And there was something about the grief and there was something about the isolation that I always kept gravitating toward because it felt like the film could speak to a lot of what we're feeling now in the safety of being a period piece, in the safety of 1996. I mean, I think if I had to try to tackle what we're going through and make it a contemporary film set in 2021, whatever, I don't know if I could have had those same conversations. I think it just would have been too soon, to be honest. So this film for me is just a really special one. And I think, you know, being here and hearing the responses from people and being able to see the film with an audience, which we haven't been able to do, it's just been really beautiful and really moving that people feel touched by the work. And they're like, I see myself in that girl. Like, I see myself in this family. And it's a Black family, you know? So even that, like having this Black family at South by Southwest being like honored in this way, it really is. It's a really special feeling.
I am just so like proud of you. I mean, I've never met you, but just like I just fell in love with you, like, you know, as I'm looking at like the press notes and prepping for all this and everything.
Thank you.
And everybody who watches already knows I am a fan of hip hop. I came out of, you know, I guess the first half of my career was dedicated to hip hop, as we talked a little bit offline. And I love how you had in your director's statement that this is a rare look, and it really is. I never even thought about this. A rare look at how a female protagonist is using hip hop as a kind of a vehicle or method for not only grief, but just exploring life overall. And I think that we have seen this in many, many, many different male protagonists, but never even thought about the female one not existing. I mean, I guess because we identify so much with the whole male side of things, you know, and hip hop is seen to be something which is, you know, misogynistic, et cetera. And there is that part, but there's the other part as well.
Absolutely.
Hence you know, this is, I think, an homage, if you will, if I get it right, to Tupac's Dear Mama, right? So, yes, I mean, there was nothing misogynistic really about that. There are many sides to hip hop artists as there are to all people. So I think it's really very cool that you were able to look at this in a different way. So Thank you guys definitely look for this film if you can, like during the festival and beyond. But let's talk about the film a little bit itself, because it's under 14 minutes, but as you're watching it, you feel like it's so much longer. How is that being accomplished? And did you kind of think this through as like a strategy, and how did you decide? Did you decide on the number of minutes first, or was it just kind of organic to the process, or what was a little bit like kind of maybe the thought process behind it?
I'd say it was a little bit of both. I think because the film is being made in a fellowship, right, in COVID, there were a lot of parameters around what we were allowed to do. So all of our pre-production was on Zoom. Most of our post-production was on Zoom. And so some of those parameters were 2 characters, 3 max. Third character has to be very small. It should really be 2 characters, 1 location. And in terms of script, 10 to 12 pages. So that already put this idea that it had to be a contained short. But I think too, I'm really grateful that we had the time to properly like develop this story, because we had so many things in there, all these other elements. And I'm one of those filmmakers that I'm always like, let's hone and strip away. Like, what do we absolutely need to tell this story? And if we can tell it without this 20 seconds or 5 seconds, get rid of it, right? Like, I'm always trying to just get to the heart of it. And I think that maybe that's why the film feels longer, because every frame in that film feels necessary, or at least it feels necessary to me in terms of the storytelling. There are no, moments of just, lingering or hanging. It's like every second as we're walking through this thing with this teenage girl is imperative, because I feel like, and I don't want to give anything away, but I feel like one thing I kept saying is like, she is struggling to breathe in this house. Like, I want you to feel the claustrophobia of that, of like wanting to speak, of wanting to cry or wanting to yell or just get it out. And you can't, because the people around you won't let you, and you're a child. So what? You have to do what you're told to do. So I felt like every moment that we're with this girl, I wanted the audience to feel that claustrophobia with her, to feel that sense of like, like we're never fully comfortable because there's so much not being said between these 2 people. So I think maybe that's why the film does feel longer, and we definitely take our time. But yeah, it was a lot of honing. It was a lot of like, kill that 2 seconds.
So you are a ruthless editor as well in Winter.
Oh yeah.
That's great to know. I think it sounds like a good tip, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, working with an editor, like my editor, Emily, she is fantastic, but she's such a beautiful collaborator. So as a director, sometimes you're like, you have clear ideas, and sometimes your editor is kind of bumping, or they don't really want to like dance with you and like play with you. But she was so open, and she kind of has a similar philosophy too. It's like, if you can tell this beautiful story as cleanly as possible, it'll land. Just focus on telling it as cleanly and as well done as you can. And I'm just really grateful that I got a really great team and I got to do that work.
That is so amazing. I think in some previous interviews, I felt like this with some shorts that have been kind of like in the horror or thriller genre.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's done very well, you don't even realize that this is a short because the story was just told so beautifully, like you said, without like extras. And I think as a viewer, you can't even say what that is or not. You know, as a filmmaker, you could. But as a viewer, you can't. You just know whether you came away from it feeling very fulfilled or not. So, you know, this really accomplishes that. And I also want to just kind of give a shout out as well to your cinematographer, right? Because it also has a feel, the look has a very heavy narrative feature, big budget look as well, right? How did you guys pull that off?
Oh, my goodness. My DP, Mike, is once again, a beautiful collaborator. I mean, our pre-production, we weren't supposed to. We were supposed to be on Zoom, but we were like, forget it. Let's get tested. Come to the house. Let's watch movies. Like, I made a really detailed deck of what I wanted the film to be. So we had something visual that we could hold and kind of come back to. But he was really game to like even push himself visually. I think there was a bit of a fear when I told him, like, I want to go dark. I want it to feel like there is words not being said in the shadows of this house. You know, when you come into a space and you just feel that thickness of like something is going on in this room and I don't quite know what it is, but I feel it. I was like, I want the house to feel like that. And the way we play with shadow and the way we play with frame to really like give the film that. And I think there were moments where he was, I think, afraid in a good way, right? Afraid in a like, okay, let's really push ourselves. Let's go dark. In a way that you don't really see with dark-skinned talent, right? I'm a big fan of saying, like, let's light Black people well. Let's light Black people beautifully. But I don't know, playing with this idea of, like, we can light them beautifully and play with darkness and shadow simultaneously. And I think when you look at people like Bradford Young and some of the work he's done, especially in his more, like, indie early days, he was able to do that, like, creating these moody, shadowy spaces with Black talent that looked stunning and very well lit. And it felt like the space was like lit for them. And I really wanted the film to have that. And Mike was just so game and so brilliant. I remember the minute I saw that first frame up on day one on Michaela, my lead actress's face, I literally said out loud, oh yeah, we got this.
That's so great. Like, that kind of feeling, especially after you've put so much work into something, is like priceless, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think it is like really, I don't know, very brave, although I hate when, you know, people use this word in film because with everything going on in the world today, I think we can both say that there are other things that call, you know, to mind, you know, a sense of bravery or courage. But just to want to go that extra mile about lighting already in itself is like crazy, because I think we've all been on set before where you're like, okay, let's do this, but it takes them like almost 2 hours to light the thing, and then you're like, I'm fed up now. Like, I almost forget what I was going to do at that point. Lighting is, of course, very key, but whoever's doing it needs to know how to do it and go on ahead and do it. And if you don't know, then say that you don't know. But the fooling around of it, that's very, 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 very disturbing to everybody on set.
Absolutely, especially the fooling around on the set. It's not like we're in a pre-production space.
This is it.
Space,
yes.
And we're playing and we're
time is ticking.
Out. Yeah, it's like we need to shoot. You know, like
yes. Something tells me, you've been in that position too.
I have. I mean, we had moments in this film. I mean, I'll sing Mike's praises all day, but there was a scene in the living room, and I don't know what happened, but we had just lost our light. There was like a big building in front of our location, and the sun had just tucked behind it. And we literally lost our light, and we were depending on that light. And Mike relit the entire living room. So there are scenes in that living room when she's like sitting and like watching the news that look fully beautifully well lit. And it is like night. It is like fully black outside. And even that to me is like, that's what I'm talking about. It's like, even when things don't go your way or they don't go the way you expect, you still have that talent and that skill to go, okay, this is why I brought extra lights, or like, yep, this is exactly why I got that contingency, or whatever it is. It's like, as a director, your team has to be on it, because I can't do it by myself. I can have a vision. I can have passion. I can talk all day about it. I will love the thing to death. but I cannot go on set and light the scene, you know? So I need my team to show up and like do the work. And he really did. Stunning work, truly.
So great. So let's talk a little bit about, I guess, like maybe the more business-y components or whatever. Tell me how you got kind of connected with Warner Media 150, and tell people who might be watching what that is if they don't know.
So funny enough, Warner Media 150 is, I want to say, one of the sponsors through the Film Independent Project Involved program. So all of that came through this fellowship, and it's just been a real blessing just to be able to capitalize on certain resources or certain like mentorship opportunities that otherwise you out here as an independent filmmaker, you don't have, right? You don't have the opportunity to share your work with people you respect and get great feedback back. So that really came through Film Independent, and they really set that deal. So I really don't know specifically what they're responsible for, but I do know they're a big part of why we were able to come together.
Well, that's really great because I mean, I think I met some of the key decision makers for 150 at Sundance maybe like 4 years ago. And that was when I first learned about the program. And I just thought it was so great. I don't think that the industry talks enough about it. So 150 is intended to be able to support like underrepresented filmmakers, but in a way that has a lot of edge. And it's not just about underrepresented filmmakers, but also with newer ideas. So it also might support emerging, technology, VR, et cetera, et cetera. And I think I'm looking forward to them doing even more. So that's how the 150 scenario comes together for you with this. Interesting. Really interesting.
And I love that they're doing their work and they're also supporting fellowships like this one we're in, right? It's like, I don't know. That's, I think, how you make a difference. You're like just going to bat for people, going to bat for people who want to do the work, who have the skill or the talent, and they just don't get the opportunity. And I think they're bringing opportunity to a lot of people who need it. And so I'm like, yes, please keep doing it. Like, that's why this film exists, right?
I think that that's so great. I was talking to an exec from AT&T about a month ago about some other things, and she really hit it on the head, I think, when she said that, it's really about advocacy, right? So a lot of creatives and executives are there, they're well-educated, they know their craft and they know their expertise, whatever, but they just simply need somebody to say, have you seen so-and-so, right? Which is happening in other networks that are already well-established. And then there's this other network, and they just kind of aren't converged, and they are beginning now to converge a bit more, so that it's just simply a matter of like being aware of each other. Like you and I are aware of each other now. Who knows what can happen? But prior to that, it just is really kind of limited, right? Because everybody has an exponential network after that. So I'm just so glad that you are able to do all of these different scenarios and the Amazon thing and everything. Let's like really back it up, I think, a little bit further. Tell our viewers kind of how did you got started, how you broke in, because that I think is a perfect segue.
Oh, I love these kind of conversations, and I love talking to just like emerging filmmakers. Anyone's out there, because I think my path to it is different, and I like to support people who don't have the typical pathway into film. So I was a theater artist, actually. I went to Fordham University in New York. I graduated with a theater degree. I had started directing theater back in Chicago, and then, transitioned into acting because it just felt the most accessible. And then I graduated and thought, I have images in my head and I don't know how to make them exist in the world. And that is bothering me. It was like, this is bothering me, and I know it would be beautiful if I could get it out, but I just don't necessarily know how to do that. So I left New York because I was no longer in school, and New York is very expensive. And I thought, I want to go to LA. I want to have a car. I want to be able to get around and put myself in positions to learn. And that's literally what I did. Flew out, lived on a friend's couch for a few months before obviously getting my own place and getting more settled. And I found a company called Black and Sexy TV. And they were making web series content. And I had seen their stuff when I was studying abroad in London. And I just thought it was so grounded. It was so Black. It was young. And I was like, oh, I didn't know there were Black people like me in LA. I just, I don't really see our stories all that often. And so I tapped in with them and was like, hey, I'm smart. I want to learn. And I'm assuming you need help because you're like an independent, low budget company. I'm ready to work. Put me to work. And they're like, absolutely. And that's what I did. I started PAing at first and rather quickly started producing because they were like, oh, she's smart. Like, I'm like, yeah, I don't know film, but I know the industry. Like, I know how to move and work and ask questions and investigate text and make strong choices. I just have to figure out how that translates in this medium specifically. And that for me was kind of like a film school crash course, just like got in there and learned in the doing, and was invited. The co-owner of that company asked me to then produce her feature with her called Jezebel, which we all know ended up doing South by 2019, and Ava DuVernay distributed us. Now we're on Netflix. And it really was for me learning in the doing and not being afraid to say, hey, what does that mean? Or, hey, what exactly is that term everyone's been throwing around, or that contract everyone's just been assuming we all know? What is it? And typically you find it's not that complicated. You just need to break it down into smaller parts.
Right.
And that's kind of what I did. And then from there, I ended up working at Condé Nast, directing and producing content, which gave me another, it just was continuing to sharpen my skill set and hone on my skill and working quickly and working efficiently and trusting choices and making choices and then seeing how that choice plays out on set. And after a while you go, okay, I can now start to predict what this will be if I shoot it this way or that way. And that's kind of what it was. And I shot my first short film, Junebug, and we shot that 2019. Yeah, we premiered it on leap year 2020, and then the world shut down 2 weeks later. But we had a really expansive festival run, and I started to see, okay, you really can do this, and not going to film school or, not having certain things that other people seem to have. It's like, it doesn't matter. If you have a unique point of view and you're hungry and you fight to tell a story and you know how to collaborate with other beautiful artists, get the work made, get the work out, and then see how people respond. So I really am blessed because it could have not happened quickly. For a lot of folks, it takes much longer. So a little bit of that is just like luck, right place, right time. But a lot of it is walking in faith and asking questions and working my ass off. If I can say that.
That is so great.
Yeah.
So give us the vibe now about what it's like at the festival. I mean, is it... Oh, I don't know. Well, you have something to compare it to. So, is it more than like the last time, before everything shut down? Do you feel like it's less? What do you feel like the energy level is like? What's like been your perspective?
I think everyone is really excited to be back. I think this might be the first bigger festival that's really in person after Sundance this year. And everyone was just like, is it going to really happen, or is it going to get shut down last minute? And South by has been really great with safety measures and really making sure people are showing back cards and negative COVID tests and stuff like that. So you feel safe, but I just think people are excited. People are watching the films, and, I'm having people walk up to me on the street I saw your film yesterday, oh my God, and just excited to talk to me about it. And I'm I've been in a room by myself for 2 years on Zoom. Tell me what you think, that is why you want to be in person. It's you want to hear people's authentic reaction. So it's maybe a little more chill. It's not as crazy as it maybe was in 2019, but I think the folks that are here are just really excited to be here.
So
and
that's
it's a
really
good energy. Yeah.
In a way, totally. Maybe for this particular festival, it's not the worst thing in the world that it's a little more chill, because South by had gotten to circus level, I'll say maybe 2018. Remember there were a few unfortunate incidences with people getting hurt and a car running into the front of a club and stuff. So at that stage, it was just too many things going on, and it was everything. It was, some of the most prominent political figures and, film, technology. And I just always thought where can this go next? And who knew that, I guess the universe would kind of tamp it down, for us and for them. I think they have a unique opportunity right now to reshape a little bit more as they move ahead now, and to kind of refine a little bit. I think they've shown that they have a huge brand that can attract tens of thousands of people.
Totally.
What's next in terms of really fine curation? And that's what I'm intrigued, and I think a lot of other people in the industry are intrigued to see where that goes next. Not necessarily quantity, but a new level of quality. And so, it's just interesting to hear you say that there are a certain number of people there and they are really very much engaged. And I hope that the festival like looks at how to be able to leverage that next.
Absolutely. And I feel like too, I don't know, like talking to the programmers and just being here in 2019 as a producer and now to be back as a director, which just feels like such an honor. I feel like every time I speak to them, there's a real love and care for the artists and their work. Like, I don't feel like I'm talking to a pretentious, you know, like I am the key holder to the festival. It's really, we are so happy you're here. Thank you for bringing your work to us. We're excited to show it. And so I've always felt that from them, that real authenticity and like love for film. Now, I haven't had a chance to go to music and tech and like do the rest of the festival, but I do think the programming team, they put a lot of like love, you feel it, a lot of love and work into this thing. And when you show up, they know you and they're excited to meet you and like talk to you about these films. And it really is a blessing. And I do think maybe post-pandemic, I think people are more calm, you know, and it's like, relax into it, y'all. Like, we're here to watch movies. We're here to meet. We're here to mingle. Like, don't drive a car into a club. Like, relax, you know?
Well, it either goes like one of two ways, I find. Either people are more chill and more empathetic, or they're more high strung and you're like, you know what, that one I kind of have to stay away from. And I think, you know, being honest, sometimes you vacillate between the two yourself, right? And don't even know it, or you do and you have to catch that. But everybody's been through something, you know, psychologically, so it only makes sense. But yeah, when you find the really, really scary ones, you have to be like, let me go. Sometimes they show up in lines at like Whole Foods, and that's all I'll say about that. So tell us what you're working on now. What's going to be next for you?
Oh my God, I feel like I'm everywhere. My incredible team at Color Creative, Issa Rae's management company, they've been setting me up on some really incredible meetings. I'm meeting writers constantly. I'm developing a love story, romance story with a writer I've worked with in the past, Nikki Davis. There's also a feature I can't talk too much about that I am hoping ends up fully coming my way, but it's connected to the Tupac story. It's connected to the mother story. And I think I have a really strong point of view on that work. So hopefully if that comes through, that would be a
put the positive vibes out there for you.
I'm taking them. I'm taking all the positive vibes. That would be a really fantastic feature debut. So that's really what we're focusing on. And I just did Film Independence episodic workshop. I don't stop. So I'm also trying to break into the episodic space. You know, I'm talking to so many TV directors and working on getting shadowing opportunities. So in the next year or two, I'm directing my first episodes of television. And, you know, there aren't many Black women in those spaces either.
Well,
so
I was thinking about that as I was watching Inventing Anna, which I'm sure you watched, like the whole world watched.
I know.
And that's a Black female director as well. And I just thought, oh, how interesting, you know, because we just don't typically see that with a story at that level, you know, that like maybe we could give them something else, but not like Inventing Anna, but no. And it was, you know, killer. I mean, I think that the numbers on that, of course, Netflix doesn't, you know, reveal them, but judging from all the social chatter around that, very, very hot. And I love being able to hear you say as well that like Issa Rae's management company, you feel that it's very supportive. It strikes me as something very different from, say, the music industry, when you have a label by somebody who is very prominent, and then you have, you know, the roster that he or she signs, but then they never seem to take off, right?
Right.
But it seems like in the film world, this could be very, very different.
Oh, absolutely. I don't get that sense from them at all. Like, I don't get the sense that, you know, you're signed as a name on a roster. You know, I come from an acting background too, so I've had many agents, and when you're building and coming up, it happens a lot where you're like, I got the agent, I finally did it. And then it's really because they just wanted another body on the roster, and then they never are in touch. They're never really advocating for you. They're never fighting for you. And you're like, then why are we a partnership? It's really not a partnership. But I feel like with this team, all helmed by women of color, mostly Black women, I feel like they genuinely care. And I think when I say, you know, maybe no to this, like, I really don't think this is like my point of view, I don't get that sense of like, no, you have to take the job because we need you to take a job. It's like, oh, great. The no's get us closer to the yeses. What is your point of view? What do you want to say? And it makes me have to really hone in on what is the voice? What is the story that we want to, what do we really want to do? And I do feel very blessed that I have a team that rallies behind that, right? They want me to find those answers and they want me to do work that genuinely resonates. And I don't think that always happens, especially for like young emerging filmmakers. So I'm very happy to be on that team.
Which is just so super exciting. I mean, I'm not a filmmaker, and I'm just like, I don't know, super 1000% into like what you're doing, because for me, I mean, I'm always about culture and trends and voice and the business around that, and that's why it's so gratifying for me to do this series. And so I just think about you, as you all filmmakers are entrepreneurs, whether they kind of think of themselves as that or not, and to be where you are as a businesswoman in this category is very remarkable. And I'm always excited when I see somebody like winning at business. Like that just is like the most incredible thing for me. It is creative approach to business, right? You're not like, a hedge fund manager, but no matter, I think that makes it even more remarkable because there's not a typical kind of path. And so
that is so
pitfalls where you could just easily be like, fall off or have been hot and fall off, or just fall into one of those like kind of pits and never get out. That's unfortunately like the story for most people. So it's very, very rare and so remarkable. So how can we definitely follow you and all your adventures coming up? Because I'm sure it's just, like I said, a matter of time before it's like SAG Awards and all that. So let's just like get on that train now. What's the best way? Website or social media or both? Go for it.
Both. I am fully present in both. Social media is the best place if you want to really engage with me and like keep up with things like on a daily basis. I'm on Instagram. It's Winter Done. If you searched Winter Done, I'm the first person to pop up. So definitely follow me there. I'm on Twitter, not as much, but sometimes there's some stuff happening on Twitter. You got to like jump in the conversation. So I'm Winter Says Chill there. And then always my website, winterdone.com. If, I don't know, if you have a question, if you are an emerging director, producer, whatever, always feel free to shoot me a message there. It gets a little crazy, so sorry if it takes a while, but I really am. I know I'm still young and I'm still emerging, but I'm really trying to do my best to help and to share what it is I do know, because I still feel like there's so much I don't know, and I'm always actively learning and putting myself in spaces where I can learn. But as much as I can share my perspective and point of view on the work, I'm trying to do that. So if you ever have a question, shoot me an email on my website, winterdone.com.
I think that's really great, because I think a part of the reason why there's not, I don't know, just more, I really hate the word diversity, but let's just say more variety in this space, is that for so long, a lot of the norms and the kind of knowledge around it has been kept inside of a very closed network. And we all know why that is, because image is it's very powerful, right? And so if everyone has access to, creating that and putting it out there, it changes the dynamics and the power structure in an overall society. And so now that more people are getting involved, and I think particularly people in your age group that don't even see power the same way, now it becomes really, really interesting. It's not just about, make sure, we've ticked off the boxes that we have these people who look like this. Now we have people who look like this, but think like that. And that's when I think things really start to become quite interesting, right? I don't even know where all that's going to go. It's beyond leveling some kind of playing field. It is making a completely new field. And I find that really, really interesting.
Same. I'm excited. I really am I'm excited to continue working as my authentic self and to be excited about that. And like you said, less focus on the fact that I am a Black woman in a space, which is I am a Black woman and I own that. And I'm very proud about that. But I'm more like, I have things to say.
Right.
The Black, that's just the start. That's like the, hi, nice to meet you. My name is, I am a Black woman. But look at all of these beautiful things that I have to say, because I have a perspective that I don't think I've seen very much in this business. So lean in,
It's the mindset. It's definitely the mindset that is really quite different from previous, generations. It's just, you have to be like very real with it. But I'm super excited that we could steal some of your time. I want you to get back out there and, network and all that. So I don't want to take any more.
We're hitting the streets. It's madness, but it's so amazing. I love it.
How's the weather, by the way? Is it warm or what?
Day 1 was 30 degrees.
Okay, because that's what I've been hearing, that it's been going like back and forth, like crazy hot. It was crazy hot in Austin because my virtual Pilates teacher actually lives there. And it was like crazy hot one day, like a week and a half ago, and then it like dropped to like temperatures which aren't even typical for Austin. Now is it kind of coming back, or is it still?
Now it's back. Yeah, okay. Now I would say it's probably in the 70s. Like I'm wearing a light jacket with some jeans, like it's fine. But that first day was.
Networking inside by whatever fireplace and or heater.
Seriously, like everyone has a coffee, but no one's drinking it. They're just like holding it for warmth. Like
right, the substitute hand warmer.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like gonna get back out there even more so now that the weather is agreeing with us. I'm gonna try to just be out on the town, meet folks, and be present because it goes so fast.
Yeah, so true. Well, best of luck. Thank you so much for taking the time. It's just been super fun to talk with you. You guys, I hope that you have enjoyed watching this interview. I don't know, maybe because I had a really good night's sleep last night or what, but I just got really energized about this and about you. It's not just because you're another woman of color. I mean, I interviewed, thank God, other women of color or other people who just think like me. But this, I feel, is something like going to be really like exciting. I don't know, but I'm very excited to see where your career goes, just even in the next 2 years. So you guys look out for Winter Dunn. This is going to be like, for posterity's sake, so we can check my forecast qualities or not. Maybe I should have used AI to be able to kind of see. But I think that, there's been you and maybe another writer who I've spoken to this year so far, who I think, they're going to be really, really powerful in the industry. Wow. So let's see. You. And again, you guys, thanks so much for watching. We've got a ton more interviews to bring you during South by, and just so many interesting filmmakers. As you know by now from watching, each festival has its own vibe. This one is particular as it's sometimes eccentric, sometimes not. And so I'm just excited to bring you even more of what we have coming up because I know what's in store. So thank you again for watching. This has been the Inside Series, and I am Lauren DeLisa Coleman for Filmio.